You're listening to the Shoot Your Shot podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Jen, and we are two boss babes sharing our story and inspiring you along the way.
And today we are joined with a very special guest in honor of Mother's Day. This
Yes.
episode is all about motherhood and being your own small business owner. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Ann Grossman. I'm the founder and owner of Rebel Daughter Cookies.
We are so excited to have Ann. When did you and I meet, actually? I was thinking about this.
Gosh.
Did we just meet on social media?
Maybe. I think we were probably Instagram friends.
I think
like friends
so, yeah.
of friends
Yep,
before
yep.
we met in person. I think the first time we actually met was at the Rebel Daughter Day, wasn't it?
I think it was. Yeah. Which we could talk about that too. That was such a fun day. But I just love that I met Megan through an amazing opportunity, but Ann and I also met through such a great opportunity through entrepreneurship. And I just feel like this business has inspired myself and so many other people to be able to meet people that you probably would have never met in your journey of life if you didn't start your own business.
Absolutely. I mean, nothing connects people like entrepreneurship, right? Because you're in the trenches together, blood, sweat, and tears. And it's just, it's like an army of people who have the same, shared stories and challenges, and it just brings so many people together.
Absolutely. Do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I do. So Can you kind of kick us off? Tell us about Rebel Daughter, how it started, your elevator pitch of your business.
I started in 2019. I was a mom to a 3-year-old son and a 6-month-old daughter. And I had this feeling that I missed, having a creative outlet. I missed spending time just by myself, being in my own head and being creative like I was when I was a kid. I always grew up very artistic, writing, drawing, building forts in the woods. And I missed having that outlet. And I went on a long walk with my daughter, and I decided, I need to start doing something for myself again. And being the Capricorn that I am, the practical Capricorn, I decided that whatever I did as my creative outlet had to somehow, quote unquote, benefit my family. And so I said, I'm going to start baking again. And I missed coming from the city. I lived in Chicago for 7 years. I lived in Brooklyn for a year and a half, and I missed those big, gooey chocolate chunk cookies that I would get every weekend after my Pure Barre workout. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to make it my mission to make that cookie here in the suburbs that I felt like I couldn't get anywhere, no matter where I tried. A month after making small batches every other day and force feeding my husband these cookies, he finally looked at me and he said, "Oh my gosh, this is it. I think you've got the recipe." And what he didn't know is he sent me down this rabbit hole of, well, now I'm going to be a national brand and I'm going to inspire other women and I'm going to make this my mission of making these amazing gooey chocolate chunk cookies and all different kinds that I used to be able to get in the city that you can't get here.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And what better way to have a business that your whole family can enjoy? The mobile bar business, my kids unfortunately cannot enjoy yet. But how fun is that? You get to include them in things. And I think that is such a big piece of being a mom and running a business, is somehow being able to include your kids in the whole aspect, because you want to see them. You want them to see you working hard, because you want to instill that in their lives too.
And love what you're doing too. Show them that you have a career that you're passionate about, that you love, that you're happy to do, that doesn't really feel like work. That's inspiring to them.
Absolutely. My son now, he's going to be 7 in June. And it's the funniest thing, because you know that your kids are listening all the time, but you don't really understand the extent of it until they come out with things like, my son is really into comics, and he's making his own comic books. Now he wants to sell them, and he's going down this laser focused path of, well, how do I bring people into my shop? What are going to be the rules of my shop? How many SKUs am I going to have? I mean, when he came out with that, I can't have too much variety. I got to narrow my focus. And how much am I going to charge? My husband and I are just looking at each other, laughing inside, but also overwhelmed with pride. Oh my gosh, my son is a born entrepreneur. And he was just helping me out in my shop this Saturday, greeting people when they came to the door and telling me, "Mom, we have a customer." I put him to work, doing a little bit of work, scrubbing the floors a little bit. And he got, money out of the cash register at the end of the day. And so I love that I'm able to give my kids that experience that they wouldn't have had before.
Yeah. Yeah. And I truly feel like that is something that I've really loved in this business. And I know Meghan doesn't have kids, but I feel like I am able to show my kids it's okay to work hard, but also have that balance we'll talk about balance, because really, what is balance?
Does balance exist?
Does not exist. But we try the best to make it exist. But I feel like showing them that you can work hard and you can enjoy what you're doing, and you don't, I come from a corporate background. Did you do corporate too? We could talk about
I was
that.
an executive assistant for 10 years total.
Yeah. So I felt like coming from a corporate background where that's all I knew. I lived and breathed corporate, and you have a similar, not so much corporate, but it's very similar. Yeah. And I feel like coming into this entrepreneurship and now showing them that doing something you love is work too. It's such a great thing to instill in them. I love that. Okay, so we're going to ask a few questions. Again,
let's get into
conversations.
It.
Let's get into it. What do you feel were some challenges when you started Rebel Daughter?
I feel like this is going to be a therapy session between you and me.
I love it.
But we're going to keep it high level so that we can help other people. All right. What are some challenges? I think the biggest challenge was that my husband is and was the breadwinner. And so as a mom with very young kids, it became, well, how do I have time to work on my business? Because I'm the main caregiver in the family, just by default, right? And it started out that way. I thought that my goal in life was to be a stay-at-home mom because my mom was, and she loved it. My mom ate, slept, breathed being a mom. Through college, she was sending me care packages and, going shopping for me and things like that. I loved being a mom, and I thought that that's what I wanted to do. And then, I was one, and I decided that, oh my gosh, everything that I thought about my goals in life have changed because I don't feel fulfilled despite having this beautiful, perfect family now. And then struggling with guilt and, well, why do I feel the way I feel? I should be so fulfilled. What's missing, And the main challenge was starting in 2019, going right into the pandemic. Where now my husband's working from home and now I'm trying to get my business off the ground. And I felt so much resentment because he could lock himself in his office all day while I'm trying to, be on my computer. My kids are hanging all over me, pulling me in different directions. Everyone needs snacks. They need their diaper changed. They need to be wiped, etc. Now I'm trying to set aside time to make cookies. And now I'm putting the kids to bed and I'm baking, or I'm waking up early and I'm baking. I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm sleep deprived. He gets to go to bed when he wants. He gets to wake up when he wants because he's the breadwinner. And well, how am I going to have time to build my business to get there, to be the breadwinner? I would love nothing more than to be the breadwinner and to pay the bills and to have my husband being the stay-at-home dad, right? But how am I going to get that time to build my business to where it needs to be if I'm also simultaneously taking care of the kids all day?
So how has that dynamic changed today, now that you have your business full time, right?
Yeah, I do. I mean, anytime you're an entrepreneur, it's going to be 24/7. You have to want to have that passion to eat, sleep, and breathe your career 24/7. And if you don't, just quit. Honestly, just get out of it because that's what it takes.
It's so funny, not to interrupt you, but I feel like we try to tell people, have the balance, have the work, have the thing. But if you don't have that passion, your business is not going to be successful. No. And if you don't figure out a way to have that passion, but also breathe it into your life in a positive way, I feel like you're not going to be successful. I totally agree with that.
You have to have that drive. But how has the dynamic changed is that I started being profitable and I started making money. And my husband, who has a business background and went to business school, saw this now as, wow, she's growing the business to a place where now I can step in and I can help her with the books and I can see how she's making money. And oh my gosh, there's people over the country who know Rebel Daughter cookies and there's local people who love her story and she's becoming successful and I can help her now get to where she needs to be. But he needed to see me put in that work. He needed to see me want to get that business to where it was. And now he's, he always was a great partner, but now he's stepped in to cook most of the meals. I hate cooking. I'm a baker. He cooks most of the meals now. Just little things like that, helping me get the kids ready for the day. And he, we got the business to a point where he said, okay, I think that we can afford to hire a nanny for those hours so that you can go to work, because it has to get to a point where you have to be able to make enough product, sell enough product to be able to afford that childcare, right? To make it make sense. And so it took me, 2.5 years.
I think that's so great for people to know that it's not going to happen overnight.
No.
And you have to really be so strong and resilient to want to make it work, because the first 18 months at least are going to be really freaking hard. And they're going to be that late nights and trying to build this business in the pockets that you have. And we both really built during the pandemic, which I feel like was harder in ways because everybody was home.
Absolutely.
You had no downtime.
Yeah.
You had no time to breathe for 2 seconds. And I want to go back to, what you said about your mom was a stay-at-home mom and you thought that's what you wanted to be. I never thought I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And now looking back, I'm so blessed that I have both. I have the role of a stay-at-home mom, like Monday through Friday, and building my business in the pockets that I can, but I also have the luxury of having a passion about something. And I think a lot of people feel guilty about that as a mom because you feel all your attention should go to your kids. And I don't think that is how it should be at all. I think you have to have your own, to be a good mom, you have to have passion about something. And if you're not having the passion and your own existence outside of being a mom, you're not going to be a good mom. So I feel like you have to have both.
I started out feeling guilty about being a quote unquote bad mom, which was to sometimes put my needs in front of the kids. Like, sorry, I can't get you a snack right now. Mommy's on the phone. Right. And kids, just in the essence of being kids and toddlers and who they are their world. And I think it's okay to show them, like, you are not the center of the world all the time. There are things that mommy and daddy have to do. It's part of being adult. I mean, one of my earliest memories, I think, is just of my mom. I said to her, hey, Mom, I want to play Barbies. Can you play Barbies with me? And she's like, no, I'm sorry. I have to fold laundry. And just feeling so bored. But you know what? It is good for kids to be bored. It is good to leave them to their own devices. Why did I grow up and why was I so creative all the time was because I grew up in a small farm town. I had to create my own world for myself. I had to create my own entertainment. And I think that's just so good for kids to know that, leave them, let them be bored, let them, fend for themselves a little bit. It builds strength of character and it's helping to shape that strong personality and that creative personality.
Oh, I totally agree with that. And but it's hard. It's really hard because you see all these videos on social media and it's like you only get 4 years with your kids.
Yes.
And I'm like, do you really only get 4 years with your kids
Yeah.
though? And it's like social media is the one who's portraying that you have to be this perfect mom and you really, or a perfect human in general, not even just a mom, like a perfect human. And I feel like you need to do what you feel is best for you and your family, especially you. Like you need to do what's best for you in order to be a good wife, in order to be a good daughter, mom, whatever you need to be. You have to put yourself first sometimes.
And if you don't, that resentment will just build and it will eat you away and you'll be unhappy. And so part of my decision and, being 36 years old and thinking, well, am I going to just be okay with this feeling inside for the rest of my life? No, I'm going to take ownership of it and I'm going to meditate on why I feel this way and I'm going to actively fix it. And I decided that I wasn't going to only wish I could be an entrepreneur for the rest of my life. I was actually going to take steps to make it happen.
Yeah. I think that's what entrepreneurship is all about, is like if you're seeing something in your life that you're not happy with, you're not making enough money, you don't like your coworkers, you have like a drive, like we were talking about, to do the thing by yourself, like that's going to change your life. And like that, I feel like that will bring you that happiness because if you have that passion, like you said, the balance and having kids, which I don't, and I can't really talk a lot about this topic, but I'm excited to hear the rest about what you guys are going to say. Because my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and she's a preschool teacher, so we've always had kids around, like, for the summers and things like that. So she was the kind of mom that would let me be bored and be like, no, go figure it out. No, we're not watching TV right now.
Yeah.
Like, she would not let the TV be my babysitter. She would, like, make me figure out ways to be creative, and not to toot my own horn, but like she did a fantastic job, I think, because like I'm 21.
Absolutely.
I had that creativity to be able to do this by myself, and she still supports me. So you guys are doing great. And from experience, I don't know. That's the way that I grew up, and if that's the way that you guys are raising your kids, they're going to be happy, and they're
We
going to have
have
the same
good
kind of
hope to
drive.
they're all going to be like Meghan.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
No, that's not what I mean. But I
No,
mean that
you-
I had a great childhood
Yeah.
being raised that way, and watching my mom do the thing that she's passionate about. She's been a preschool teacher her entire life, and she absolutely loves it. So having that love and drive, and I'm going to work and I'm coming home later, and then spending time and like being there for me when she's home, she's there for me, and she's there for my sister. Like she has the separated hours and times, and like this is playtime and this is work time, and she had that separated, and it was a really good role model to look up to. So
Great. Yeah.
I totally agree. I love it. Okay, so next question, this kind of goes into really what we've been talking about, but what do you feel like the best tips on, we talk about balance, and it's funny because I was at an event, and I think I might have talked about this on another episode, but they talked about balance being like a seesaw. And, you know, if your marriage and your kids are all happy, then your work is probably going to go down a little bit, and vice versa. So I actually do not like the word balance because I feel like it's so hard to do that. It's juggling and all these things, but you're married, you have kids, you have an amazing business. If you could give like one inspirational tip to someone who is like, how could I ever do all of this? Like, what would your one tip be? One of many, but one.
I think the hardest part of being an entrepreneur is just getting started. So many people have the dream, but not enough people take action. And I think it was Amelia Earhart who said, you know, the hardest part is getting started and the rest is merely tenacity. And it's just so true. You will figure it out.
Yeah.
You can have the best laid plans and it's all going to go to SHIT. I don't know if I can swear.
Oh, you can.
But I mean, it's like having a birth plan, right? Your business is your baby. You can have the best birth plan in the world, you know, no medication. I'm going to do this all my way. And then cold, hard reality hits. And so you just have to get started, put one foot in front of the other, and the rest will fall into place. If you have that drive, that passion, and that desire, you will bend the world to fit your goals. I honestly, I believe so much in manifestation and just putting in the hard work.
Yep.
And the rest will happen.
I love that you referred to a business as a birth plan because that could not be any more real. Like I had an idea of my like birth plan with my son. He ended up being, the doctor told me he was going to be between 8 pounds and 12 pounds when he was born. And I ended up having an elective C-section, which was never my plan. Excuse me. Got it.
it's okay.
Oh my goodness. Excuse me. And I freaked out. I literally went in like complete panic mode. I was like, this was not my plan. And it ended up working out way better than I thought. I had the best recovery, had an amazing pregnancy or, you know, delivery. But it wasn't my plan. And I feel like with my business, that wasn't a plan either. Like this was not the plan. And it turned out way better than I thought. And I'm sure like when you guys first started, you didn't think your business was going to be where it is today, but you started. And I feel like that's the best thing and advice that I could give anyone is you have to just start and you will figure it out. And I'm getting more into manifestation too. And I truly feel that if you put good things into the universe is totally going to reward you. Yeah. What is your take on that? Like,
No, absolutely agree. I manifested my business. But no, I think putting that out into the universe, and whether it is truly like a spiritual manifestation or rather it's just that's your mindset now. I feel like manifestation could just be switching your mindset and saying like, I will be successful. I will be doing this. I will make money doing XYZ. I think just saying it out loud motivates you to make that happen and actually have the drive to go out and do it, like you said, because you can't just say that you're going to do it. You have to actually go out and do the thing. Like my plan did not go as I expected it to. I thought that I would do a side hustle with photography for like a year and then go part-time at my job and part-time in photography for another year, and then I would quit and go full-time. And instead I decided to quit after like 2 months and was just like, I'm going to put all my drive and my power and my energy into this, and it turned out this way. But I feel like saying that out into the universe just made me want to get it more.
Yeah.
So that's what I think on manifesting.
I think maybe part of manifesting is you just hold yourself accountable.
Yes.
You know, I've heard of vision boards, and I don't feel like I don't have the time for a vision board, but the vision board is inside my head. And if I put that out there in the universe and I tell myself I'm going to do something, I will be disappointed in myself if I don't try to follow through on that.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that so much. I truly, I did one vision board, which is funny because I love stuff like that. Like mine's in my brain too. And Megan and I joke because we're so opposite. Megan writes everything down. She had a business plan. Mine was
Hey,
in
that
my
works
head.
too. Yeah.
But again, like I didn't really totally follow it. Like
Yeah.
I switched things up halfway through.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can write down a plan for yourself and just know it might not go the way you expect it to, but everything will
The
work out
guidelines are there. The
in
blueprint is there.
Yep.
Right, right.
Yep.
Another thing I would say that I've had to do as an introvert, I started out very, very introverted. And I think building that extroversion and, you know, people skills are part of what you have to learn. You're just forced to as an entrepreneur. But when I first started, I created this avatar for myself in my mind. And I said, you know, I don't want to go to this person and ask them for advice or help, but what would my avatar do? Like if I had a CEO of my company, what would I want her to do? And then I go do that thing. I make myself go do that thing. And it's funny, my mom always called me her rebel daughter growing up, which is where the name came from. But ironically, I had to become that person. I had to become that rebel daughter that people expected a rebel daughter to be in order to grow my company. So I started out very quiet, very introverted, you know, fun around my friends and like goofy and having fun. But you know, put me in a party in a room of 50 people, I would just stand there in the corner and drink to calm my nerves. And so I've had to learn to be that person that I would want myself to be. Does that make any sense?
Oh, 100%.
In order to, you know, just lead this company forward.
Which
You have no
I feel like
choice.
that's going to dive into our next question about social media. You would never think that from your social media.
No, I get that all the time.
Yeah.
But we had talked about this prior because, you know, I love reels, and you had mentioned I need to put my face more. Like people want to
Yes.
see
Yeah.
the person behind the business. And I'm a firm believer. I feel like people buy you versus, you know, they buy you first and then they love your business. So they continue to come back, but they bought you first. And I feel like you do have to put yourself on social media, as awkward and as, you know, awkward as it is. But you do such a good job about that. And I know a lot of people have a big fear about that. So how did you overcome putting yourself on your social media? Because I know you didn't want to at first.
Well,
Right. Am I right about that?
no, you are
Okay.
absolutely right. And so for the longest time, I said, look, I'm just going to get my nails done. It's going to be a picture of me holding my cookies. And that's what I'm going to do.
You have fabulous nails, by the way.
Thanks. My hands are, you know, they're kind of man hands, but you know, I do what I can. They make the cookies look small. My cookies are huge, and like the irony is that my hands are so big, it's like palming a basketball. You know, but no. How did I get into it? I think I realized that. You know, I've heard from so many different people. I think it was Ashley of Business Socialistas who kept saying, you know, we want to see your face. Put your face on social media. And she really gave me the push I needed to start doing that. So thanks, Ashley.
Thanks, Ash.
Yeah. But I part of the hurdle I had to overcome was that I feel like social media is always this curated, pristine, perfect, you know, filtered, you know, fake thing. And I hated it. And I rejected every part of that because that is not who I am. And then I thought, well, what if I just say, fuck it, you know? And I just started being goofy and I just started putting my inner personality out there to everyone and they could take it or leave it. Let's see how that does. Will people be attracted to it or will they leave? And you know what? The right people will follow you. The wrong people will leave. And that's what you want.
Yep.
You want the right people to follow. You don't want just, you know, some number of people. And so I started being more loud about, you know, my, you know, women empowerment, you know, pro human rights values. And then the people who like that will stay. And the people who don't like that will leave. And that started working for me. And it felt more authentic and it felt truer to myself and my brand anyway.
And I think that's a big thing about like social media. And I have found this too. A lot of people will send me a message if I post something about how hard it is to own a mobile bar. And, you know, people think that, yeah, I show up to events, I serve delicious cocktails. It's fun. It's, you know, it's the life of the party. But you don't know what I just went through to get to that party. So I think it's showing the back end of your work too, and showing that, yeah, entrepreneurship is fun and exciting, and you have this business that you get to call your own, and you make a lot of money off of it that you never expected to make off of it. However, it's a lot of work. And I feel like people need to be reminded that it's okay to have those tough days. and not only see the pretty stuff on social media. And I get a lot more comments when I am real and I am authentic on my social media and sharing the rough times. But you sometimes feel, and I'm not going to speak to you guys, but sometimes I feel that I shouldn't show that because I want my business to look perfect. And I want my business to look like I'm the life of the party, which it is. But I also want to show other people because that's what I love doing. I love showing and inspiring people that you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it too. But it's hard to show the behind the scenes sometimes.
But it's good too because it's relatable, and that's the reason why we have this podcast is like to show the relatable part about it. That this is your day-to-day life, what you're doing behind the scenes. That you're not just there on the weekend like it looks like you are. Like what did it take to get there on the weekend? And same for me, but with us in like a service-based business, like we're only in person with our clients over the weekends, and we don't have like the packaging, but like you have packaging in the storefront and like so many other things going on day to day, and ours is like just behind the computer. So it's super different, but like I don't know, do you struggle with that too? Like people walking into the shop and they're like, oh, does she just like bake all day? That's so cool. Like, do they not know that like how much more goes?
Nobody can ever possibly know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, what you see in social media is just a small glimpse. People have no idea.
Yeah.
You know, people see a $6 cookie and they think, oh, well, there's, 50 cents worth of ingredients in there. And, she's just having fun baking cookies. And, this is some fun little hobby for this cute little mom, People have no idea.
No.
They have no idea
If you had to say like one of your toughest challenges in your store, like not with anyone personally, but just like a challenge that you're like, people don't know about this. And like, I want them to know what I do. Real nitty gritty. Like I joke because you have is it called the Roomba?
Yeah.
The vacuum.
An iRobot.
I love
Her
it.
name's Crumbelina.
If you do not follow Anne, you have to follow her, but you have to see some of her videos because they're the funniest things. Like that's what I love about your social media. It's like you have the vacuum that goes around your bakery. Like that's the funniest thing. It's so simple, it's easy, but it's like something that I remember from you posting a reel on. But what's like one behind the scene thing that you would want to share?
Gosh, I think the funniest thing just from the very beginning is if you've got a great website that looks very professional, it is, and you ship nationwide, people have no idea how small your business actually is. And they don't realize that you are the customer service, that they are talking to the owner. There's one instance of this very nice woman who contacted, through the chat app on the website, and asked for this, big favor. And I'm sorry, we can't do that. It's just not what we do. And then emailed me and said, I spoke to this very nice employee, but she told me that we couldn't do that. And I was like, yes, that was me. You spoke to me, and that is still true. I'm so sorry. We can't do that. But that was a bigger challenge, I think, when I first started is it was just me. It was literally just me. I had no bakery assistants. I did not have a driver. I was making all of my deliveries. If the delivery got there, later than I thought, it was because I had 2 kids in the car and I was driving for 2 hours up and down Fairfield County.
Wait, can you tell, I don't think we started with this. Tell people how you started, because actually that is how we first met. I picked up cookies from you.
Oh, wait.
For a photo shoot.
Yes.
That is how we met. Yes. Tell people about that, because I feel like people need to know, and I don't even know if you know this, how you started like delivering your cookies.
Oh my God. It's like giving me PTSD right now. So of course, my daughter was very young and my son was also very young, and I would just put them in the car right after, my son would come out of preschool, or, my daughter's, still a baby. And some days I had a lot of deliveries and I would have them in the car, like handing snacks as I'm driving. I'm sweating bullets. They're crying because they're hungry. They want to go home. They're bored. And sorry, still got 3 more stops, and one's in Fairfield and like one's in Wilton, and I'm driving all over trying to get, and I'm getting lost, by the way, because I'm in New Canaan. I don't have any service. Right. And like roads are being rerouted. It was a nightmare. It took me so much time. It was like more time than it was worth. And so my very first hire was a delivery driver. When I realized, I was now making enough money where I could afford to hire one, first of all, and pay them the delivery fee and also pay them for mileage. And it just took so much off my plate. I mean, that's time that's better spent working on my business, building my business, baking cookies, etc.
But I think it took for you to realize that, because I feel like in my business, I need to hire so many people because I'm not getting the time back that I need. But I feel like it takes you to experience that frustration and that hard times. And I feel like when your back is against the wall, I'm a firm believer that is when you show up and that is when you figure it out because you have no other option.
Yeah, it's those make or break moments.
Yep.
You have to find your pain points and how can I alleviate this pain point that is going to free me up to do something better in growing my business.
And I feel like that is something that's so important for a new entrepreneur to understand. Like, you're not going to be successful overnight, and you're going to have to work really, really hard in order to be successful. And then you're going to think you're at that successful point, and then you're going to want to be better and better and better. And I feel like that is what continues to make your business so good, because you have to keep reimagining the business. And it's a forever spinning wheel that we have in our brains.
Trying to like one up yourself.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I did really great at this thing. How can I make that better? And
Yeah. Building on your own success, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So you have a storefront now.
Yes.
How many years now?
We've been at that storefront at 21 Isaac Street in Norwalk since last February.
So a year and
Yeah.
some change. That's so amazing.
Exciting. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
When you first started that, like, tell people how that process was, coming from delivering and shipping only out of your house or out of a kitchen.
And then a ghost kitchen too.
Okay.
We had a ghost kitchen in Norwalk.
What was the process of like how you knew that you wanted a storefront and why you wanted a storefront? I guess let's start there.
Are we doing the long version or the short version? Because
You can do
I've
whatever
got
version.
some great stories. But I was working at 314 Wilson Avenue, which is a ghost kitchen in Norwalk. It's called Commercial Kitchen Sharing, and they rent time to different food entrepreneurs. And look them up; it's a great place to start.
Actually, shout out to Joe Grasso because
yeah,
his
that's right.
daughter is my best friend.
Yeah, there you go.
Small world.
Yeah. So I started there, and it's a very small footprint of a kitchen. There's not a lot of storage space. And so I was packing, especially over the holidays, packing my SUV loaded with boxes, floor to ceiling, driving there, dropping them off, at 8:30 p.m., driving back to my house, loading it up again, dropping it off because we had so many orders the next day and there was just no room to grow. And Joe's Kitchen was getting so busy that there just wasn't enough time for my business to be able to rent in order to fulfill these orders. And so we just started selling out. I'm sorry, we can't take any more orders. I love that you want my cookies. I'm sorry, I can't bake anymore. And it wasn't even about the manpower. Like, you can always hire another hand to put cookies in bags, but there's just not enough time to bake all of the cookies or to make all of the cookies. And I remember I was so burnt out over the holidays. This was 2021. I thought, if this isn't burnout, then I don't know what is. And I kept telling myself I didn't come this far to only come this far. And I had been working with a commercial real estate agent, looking at all of these different spaces around Fairfield County, and nothing fit. Everything was out of my price range, or it had to be completely gutted. And then you're looking at, $75,000 to build a kitchen, and where's that money going to come from? And I refused to feel defeated. I refused to be defeated, but I was exhausted, right? And I know what I want my business to look like, but it's not going to happen here. I have to grow somehow. Let's go back to 2020. April 2020, I had found this awesome quote unquote art park right between Leonard and Isaac Street in Norwalk, where there's all these really cool murals that local artists have painted. And I met one of the local artists there, and we became friends, and he had pointed out this vegan ice creamery in that parking lot. And I thought, oh my God, that is my dream location. I would love to be in this area. I really wanted a Brooklyn feel for my company, which is why I was in that art park to begin with, to take photos there. And I fell in love with that spot. And no matter what I looked at in Fairfield County, nothing felt like that. And I couldn't find anything around that area. So it was, I think, October 2021. And, I heard through a friend that Nutty Bunny, the vegan ice creamery, wanted to get out of her lease. She was moving everything to a co-packer. And I had gone to sleep at night thinking about being in that space. I had woken up in the morning thinking about being in that space. again, just trying to manifest being there. And I got on the phone with Pamela and I said, Pamela, I was just shaking. I will do anything to take over your lease. Please, please, please consider me. And she did. And the stars just aligned. And so I got to be exactly where I wanted. The landlord was okay. I mean, encouraged me just wrapping it in a mural because that's what that whole place is about, you know, celebrating the local art. He loves that I fit right in there. And I mean, the rest is history. I rent the kitchen now to Sylvia on Mondays. She makes Argentinian, Peruvian desserts and birthday cakes. So she's there all day Monday. And then I also rent to Aunt Thula of the Cheesecake Collection. And she's there Tuesday through Friday from 4 p.m. until close. And so they're renting for me at a very low rent. And I get the extra rental income. And we're kind of just a big commune. We all look out for each other. And it's phenomenal.
And isn't that something, like, you are so big on supporting women? Isn't that something that you wanted? You wanted a space for women to be able to run their business at a reasonable cost because life is just so expensive. And you're fulfilling that for these ladies. And that's just so amazing.
It's so hard to get started as a food entrepreneur. You know, the margins are low and the costs are high. And I vowed if there was any way that I could help someone else and not have to go through what I went through and be able to build their business a bit quicker than I could, then I would do it. And I've put myself out there so much, just like you have, of, hey, I want to help other women. I think that might lead into another conversation that I'm here to discuss. But yeah, I would love to one day do that on a larger scale.
I love that so much. And you hosted that event in March. So that was a month after.
Yeah, I treated it as sort of a grand opening, but also like, hey, look, I've got this huge parking lot. I've got all of this space. My landlord is supportive of us doing this. Let's bring in, 30 other women-owned businesses, not charge any kind of a vendor fee or any kind of a fee for, people to come. And let's have them showcase their business and sample their product, etc. And let's make it all about women supporting other women. Yep. It was just a dream come true.
Not to interrupt you, but instead of Anne having her own grand opening, there was like 35 vendors, right? Yeah. 35 women-owned businesses in her parking lot, and she was supporting all of them. So that just goes to show what Anne does with her business. It is not just about her. It is about like getting women together and empowering them and inspiring them. And I just think that that's so important, because going back to manifestation and putting good things into the universe, I think that is why you're so successful, because you do so much for other people. And I just feel like that is a part of entrepreneurship, because we talk about it. It's lonely sometimes. You have a team now, but for the most part, as an entrepreneur, you're by yourself. Yep. And I feel like if you're not supporting other people and empowering them, you're going to continue to stay lonely.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's important. So we have one more thing that we want to talk about, and Meghan can dive in on this too. Anne and I joke a lot about, we're going to use the word copycat, but people kind of, I guess, inspiring with what you're doing, but doing it in a not authentic way. So basically how we're going to preference this is, we've had scenarios where we put our heart and soul into our business, and we, obviously you get ideas from other people, but we have found that people basically, lack of better word, just kind of copy exactly what you're doing and don't put their own take on it, don't put their own spin on it. And that can be so frustrating as someone who pours your life into your business, and you want your customers to feel that they're getting something that's you and authentic. And what is your take on this? Let's dive into kind of not the best, empowering conversation, but I feel like it's important, because as a small business, you can get defeated very easily. So how do you feel? Like, how do you handle situations where someone literally just copies exactly what you do?
Well, I think part of my story and your story is we want to help other women. We want to build other women up. We want to encourage them to start their own business. But you and I never imagined that some people would take that to be, oh, she wants me to copy what she's doing. No, I want to inspire you to do your own thing. And sometimes, I think people just lack a little creativity, or they see something, they perceive something as being successful, and they think, well, the quick way to make a buck is just to copy what she's doing. Listen, they don't care about my feelings or your feelings. But if there's any piece of advice that I can give to somebody who's thinking about doing that, is that you will never be as successful as you could be if you are simply copying someone else's idea. Yeah. it's one thing to be inspired by and to want to emulate something that you love about someone else's branding or their business, but you can't take someone else's story. And if you're simply copying branding, first of all, you might be setting yourself up for some kind of a legal lawsuit down the road. But second of all, people aren't going to relate to that copycat version of someone else's authentic idea the way they will with the original. So if it's not coming from a creative, outlet for you, if it's, just about making some quick money because you think something is successful, it's just going to be a flash in the bucket. You're not building a bigger business. You can't build a successful business simply copying an idea that you see someone else doing. It has to come from you authentically. And I talk about creative integrity a lot. So my business started as my creative outlet, and all of my cookie flavors are inspired by my childhood. I consider myself a dessert connoisseur at this point. I have such a sweet tooth. I pull from so many memories, whether it's a trip to Thailand or whether it's from sitting eating a Fluffernutter sandwich at a neighbor's house when I was, 5 years old. That is what my business is about. And the women empowerment comes from my story of struggling through the pandemic with my kids and, struggling for respect and, struggling with being an introvert. And that's part of my story. And if your story is not coming from you authentically, it won't resonate with anyone else. So you're really just harming yourself. My feelings and your feelings aside, and, legal implications aside, you're not going to be successful if it's not coming from you authentically.
I have a question for Meghan too. So photography obviously is a very popular industry. How do you feel that you set yourself up for success on sticking out in, a sea of photographers? Like, what would you say is some advice as someone who, I feel like Anne and I have very unique businesses. Obviously there's a lot of bakeries and cookies, but yours is so unique and different, and mobile bar industry is new and upcoming. Right. But how do you feel as a photography business? How do you stand out?
Well, it's hard because it's so saturated. There's so many photographers out there in the world. And we live in a very populated area where there's so many of us also. So standing out is hard to do. But there's so many different parts in photography where it's not just a service where you're doing somebody's wedding, you're documenting those moments. It's also an art. It's like hiring a live painter, except it's not really live. So in the way that you shoot, the settings that you use, the camera gear that you use, the way that you treat them, the way that that you're there and you present yourself, and the kind of things that you document. Like I try to take a lot of candids and make sure that I get a lot of pictures of grandma and mom and dad and any kids there. So I think those little touches and details and making sure that you're paying attention to the things that most people don't pay attention to is what sets you apart, as well as the editing style that you have. So that's also part of the art. So, I feel like mine is true to color, but glows a little bit. I like it to feel like it's golden hour almost. But I've seen a lot of people that have very similar editing styles where I can't really tell if it's this person or this person. Like they look identical. And so I think setting yourself apart with that, where it looks like it's part of your brand, and if somebody saw one of your pictures, they'd be like, oh yeah, that's from Meghan, before they even saw that my name was attached to it. But I agree with you 100% that like your story is your story and you can't steal somebody else's story. And even if you tried to, like Jen said, you buy that business owner before you buy their products. And so even if you are taking somebody else's ideas, people are going to know that it's not you just because you're not passionate about it. Like you have to be able to be present on your stories and say why you love what you do and truly show that you love it and how excited you are to go to work and to do the thing that you're doing. And if you don't share that enough and people don't see that you love what you're doing, they're not going to buy into your business. So that's another thing I think is being present on your social media sets you apart, because it's something that a lot of people are afraid to do. And so the more active that you are saying, oh, I love what I do, and this is what I'm doing today, and this is what I'm doing tomorrow, and this is why I'm excited for this, and just the little day-to-day things will make people buy your business over somebody else that isn't sharing those kinds of things.
Yeah, 100%. And I think if you are copying someone's ideas, once you have to show up to your client, you're not going to be authentic because you're not going to be who they're expecting you to be. If you're copying someone else, they're expecting you to be that person that you're copying. So if you are not putting your full self forward, and being a copycat and getting ideas from someone is two totally different things. If you're inspiring, let's say a cocktail, and one of the cocktails that I made, just like you loved it and you want to create it in a different way, that's fine. But don't copy exactly my cocktail, post it on social media.
Don't name it the same thing.
Don't name it the same.
Oh my gosh. How'd that happen?
And it's just, it's back to Anne's point, it's going to bite you in the butt in the end. And if you are starting your business that way, you're never going to be successful because you're never going to have your own spin. You're never going to have that creative piece of your business that people want. They want to buy you at the end of the day. And if you're doing the same thing as someone else, they could go buy that other person. They're not going to want to buy you.
Figure out a way to set yourself apart.
Yeah. Your business needs to be you, like at your core, like you said. Like that's not something that you can change. Like your business is what it is because you are who you are.
And I mean, I've seen this from the very beginning. People copying my branding, the names of my cookies, they last about 2 years. I've seen them fizzle out because being an entrepreneur is so hard. And if you don't have that need for a creative outlet that is inspiring your business, that is pushing you to be better every day, that is making you want to burst out of bed in the morning saying, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get this done today. It's too hard. You're going to give up. And so why? I just don't understand. Why bother? If you're not going to do it for yourself, why do it at all?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Do you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to agree with you that having that drive and waking up in the morning and being excited to go to work, or closing your computer at the end of the day and being like, okay, I'm excited for tomorrow, and leaving off in a good place where you're not burnt out and you do have time away from the business. Those kinds of things to me makes me feel like it's meant for me. Like that I'm meant to be doing this, that I'm truly happy and fulfilled doing this, as well as happy in my relationship and happy at home and all of these other things that go into your lifestyle. Having happiness in your career is just a totally different kind of happiness than I feel like all of the other things in your life.
And I was literally panning off of that. I feel like if you are so excited about your business, you're going to wake up every morning and want to put your life into your business. And I also want to talk a little bit about corporate before we close today, but I always told myself that I had to love what I did. I had to wake up every morning. I had to want to go to work, whatever it was I was doing. And I feel like I finally found that in what I do right now. And it took 35 years for me to 34. I'll be 35 in June. We had an episode where I said I was 35 a few months ago. I'm not yet. I'm almost there. But I feel like I have found my passion, but it took a pandemic for that to happen. So whatever it takes for you to find it, I feel like it's okay. And it's okay to start when you're 40. It's okay to start when you're 50. It's okay to start when you're 19. It's okay to start at whatever age, because that's your journey. And that is the universe, allowing you to create what you need to create at that time in your life.
It's definitely something that not to cut you off, but something that I struggle with is why did the universe give me this inspiration, this idea when I've got a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old? But the truth is, if I had not been part of that specific set of circumstances, it wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have felt that emptiness that I needed to fill and figure out what it was that was lacking in my life. So much of my life was spent, I was in the corporate world. I was an executive assistant, putting one foot in front of the other to pay the bills. I didn't have time to think about what was missing. I didn't have the luxury of finding my passion, right? That happened because I was a stay-at-home mom, and it is harder, definitely. If you can start your business before you have kids, I highly recommend it. But sometimes it doesn't always happen that way, and sometimes you're better for it.
Yeah. My husband makes a comment, because now, he's with the kids on weekends when I'm at events, and he's like, gosh, I wish we thought about this idea 10 years ago before we had kids. And I say to him, I go, I wasn't ready 10 years ago. I was not at the mindset that I'm at now where I can do it now.
Right.
And that's okay. And I feel like people struggle that, you know, when they're older, they're like, oh, I'm too old to do this now. And I feel like there's so many people, I don't know exactly the names, and I always want to talk about this, but there's so many people who started so much later in life and they're so successful. And it's okay that you can start later in life. And I feel like, if anything, like, we hope this podcast is inspiring someone who is 40, 50.
Yeah.
I don't know if 6-year-olds are listening. I know my grandma does. So, but
Hi, Grandma.
hey, but my grandma's actually a huge inspiration to me because she went back. She had 2 kids. She was a nurse, went back to school after 2 kids. This was in whatever, you know, in the 70s, 60s, and she became a lawyer.
Wow.
And if she can do it, she's always my inspiration.
That's a
If
real
she
rebel
can do
daughter
it,
right there.
yeah,
I love it.
literally. And it's just, it doesn't matter what age you are. If you have that feeling on your heart and you have that gut feeling inside, and that's the universe telling you to go for it.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, not that I know because I don't know, but I feel like the older you get, the more you're going to say, oh, if I had started last year.
Yep.
It doesn't even have to be like, oh, when I was 20 or when I was whatever age. Just like you're gonna wish, oh, I wish I had the energy and started a year ago or 2 years ago. But it's like you're gonna say the same thing in another year or 2. So just, if you're thinking about it and you're on the fence, don't be on the fence. Get off the fence and just go start. Just like get in the street and like drive your car and go do your thing.
Just start. It's like,
Just
you
do
know,
it.
becoming a parent. You're never going to be ready. You think that you can be ready, or you think in 5 years you're going to be ready. You are never going to be ready to have that kid. You are never going to be ready for this business to be your baby. You just have to start and you will figure it out.
I think we have to close with that. There's
All
nothing
right.
else that we can say, you know, to end with that. But I totally agree. You have to just start. And if this episode can inspire any women who are thinking about being moms and having a business, you can do both. I promise you, it's hard, but
It's hard as
it is hard as fuck.
but you can do it.
But it's rewarding, and
Yeah.
I always, and I said this to Megan in a few episodes, I want my daughter to see how hard her mom works.
Absolutely.
And I want my son to see that his mom is a hard worker. So when he gets married and has a wife and kids one day, he can do the same thing for them. And I feel like if you're not showing them the path, who else is?
Exactly. I
So-
didn't have anybody modeling that for me. And so I'm so glad that, you know, even in the really tough times when I feel like I'm a quote unquote bad mom, hey, I'm modeling this for my daughter that she can do anything that she wants.
And to all the moms who think you're bad moms, we all think it.
Yeah.
So you are not the only
You know
one.
what? Thinking you're a bad mom means you're a great one, because
Yes,
if
you're
you
thinking
didn't
about
care, that would make you a bad mom. The fact that you care makes you a great mom.
That is so true. Oh, I'm going to cry. That is so true. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having
this
me.
was amazing.
This was great.
I love your story. I'm so proud of you.
Likewise.
Keep inspiring everying. You're doing such a good
Thank
job.
you. High five. High five.
Yay!